I've added millions and millions onto various different brands using behavioral science. And in today's video, I'm going to give you an unbelievably powerful principle that's scientifically backed, psychology backed as well. And you can chuck it into your marketing straight away. And I'm going to tell you why you can do this and how it will increase your sales. So if you are a small business, you are struggling with one thing, no doubt, and that thing is having authority. This is one of the key principles I see actually missing from different brands. And the problem is that if you start in a new business, you don't have the level of expertise and you don't have the ability to tell people with the level of expertise, which would in turn make them listen to you, which would then in turn make them buy from you, which would then make you have that expertise so you can then tell people, okay? So it's like a vicious cycle at the start because it's really hard to get yourself off the ground. So authority in behavioral science helps manage people's uncertainty. This is my neatest handwriting, by the way. It helps manage uncertainty. What do I mean by that? Is when I'm unsure about making a decision, I will typically look towards an authority figure to help me make that decision. So for instance, a scenario a while back, my mum was really struggling with all these different various symptoms. And for years, she never left the house, bless her. For years, I was telling her that she needed to take vitamin D because she never left the house, she never got any sunshine. For years, it was like the topic of every conversation. I was like, why don't you try this? The problem is, she didn't view me as an authority to take any action. Then one day, she phoned me up and she says, Rob, I've been to the doctors today and they said my vitamin D levels are really low. And so I've just bought these vitamin D supplements and I'm going to start taking them. And I said, yeah, Mum, I've been telling you this shit for years and years and years and you haven't ever listened to me, right? And she turns to me and she says, no, you haven't. It was infuriating, but truth be told, it's because my mum couldn't hear me because she didn't view me as an authority. I'm not an authority figure in her life. I am her son, right? Which is an unfortunate position to be, particularly when you know something about something. And so the takeaway of this conversation is that when you are not viewed or perceived as an authority, people not only don't listen to you, they actually don't hear you at all. And so straight away in your marketing, you have to figure out how you can get the person to view you or perceive you as an authority. And you can do this in a few different ways, right? If you are new, but you haven't got the results at the moment, what is the reason you got into this industry? So for instance, before I actually started officially doing behavioral science, right, I'd worked in marketing for 10 years or something ridiculous. And I'd been putting these different behavioral science and principles and bits of persuasion into different businesses for that amount of time. And I've been consulting for big brands on various different marketing practices. Now, I hadn't specifically been focusing on the behavioral science and the persuasion, but an ethical way that I could package that up is I've got 10 years of experience in marketing and applying these principles to different businesses with amazing results. And I would talk about the results, right? So specifically when I started my business in behavioral science, I could take from my previous experience, package it up in a way which would make people be like, oh, actually, this guy does know what he's talking about, because that's all I'm trying to get across, right? And I do know what I'm talking about, but the challenge is, how do I package that? So look at previous experience. Have you worked in a field for maybe 10 years? Have you got given any awards in any other work which you can translate over to that? Okay. Have you worked for some sort of brand, or are your clients well connected with bigger brands? Have you got clients that are featured in like Forbes or something like this? You could do something called borrow authority. And borrow authority is where you use the authority of someone else to help manage that uncertainty. So for instance, a new lipstick may get Kim Kardashian to feature on the picture of the lipstick, and they'll pay her like friggin' 50 million for it or something ridiculous like that. But really, they are just trying to get an influencer who is known for their beauty, authority in that realm, okay, to be the authority for them, right? So they are borrowing that person's authority. Are you regulated? This was a big one, right? I worked in the credit card industry. I was on the good side of these guys. I was helping, a charity with behavioral science, and the charity was helping people who were in credit card debt. And a big thing in their industry is that so many customers were actually really untrusting. They were uncertain about everything. They felt that everyone was a scammer. And so a big bit of authority for them was that they were actually regulated by the FCA and regulated by a different bunch of other bodies. And the FCA is like the financial regulating main body in the UK. But just saying that they were regulated by X, even though some people hadn't ever heard of the FCA, meant that they had authority. They followed some sort of rules, if you think about everything that it infers. If you can get some sort of authority, there's a million different examples there. You could probably use ChatGPT to, look into this. If you can get some sort of authority, here's the next important thing you need to do. You need to mention it first. If you think back to the first part of this call, I said, my genuine expertise. I said, I've used behavioral science to generate millions and millions of dollars for various different brands. I've worked for 8-9 figure brands, right? And I've said that before I went on to tell you the meat. And the reason why is because even though some of you guys might like me, I've had a few messages from some of you guys and from my other YouTube channel as well, you might not take my advice so seriously if you think I'm just a random person in a room freestyling on theory. I'm telling you that I've actually got expertise in that. And because I've told you that I've got expertise, this is your resistance barrier, right? What actually happens is this resistance barrier goes down a little bit. And because it goes down a little bit, now I can give you the advice. But if the barrier was too high, I would give you this advice and it would get blocked at this wall right here. You might actually click off the video. You might actually not follow anything that you needed to do. If you think about the example I gave with my mum, she doesn't view me as an authority. So as a consequence of that, she doesn't do what I say. She doesn't even remember what I say. It's probably one of the clearest examples that I can give of authority. Now, really important, there's been loads of experiments into authority. They're all really interesting. I highly recommend you read the series of Milgram's experiments where they got normal, non-psychopath people to essentially believe that they were electrocuting somebody to death because the instructions were given by a guy in a white lab coat. Fascinating stuff. I've got a few breakdowns on my channel here. But the point of that is that the scientists estimated that of the participants that went through this study, 1% of people would administer really painful electric shocks. But what actually happened was like 100% of people actually administered all electric shocks, which is surprising because we like to think that people don't comply with authority, but they comply with authority all the time. But scientists and actual psychologists predicted that they wouldn't, but the results showed that they actually would. And in debriefs and things for these studies, and this is the really fascinating bit, and people in any type of behavioral science study, afterwards they always justify why they did it. So they'll always turn around the participant who's just electrocuted somebody and be like, you know what, yeah, but like it wasn't that I was obeying authority, it was that actually I made that decision to do that, and that was something that I wanted to do. And the results show that that's just not the case at all. It's actually the authority figure which is making them do that, which shows that people don't actually know what they are motivated by. They don't know the reasons they do behaviors, okay? And so when I'm telling you to put authority up front before you start talking, educating, asking your clients for the sale, if you were to ask the clients, they would probably say that wouldn't work. But the psychology and the science shows that it actually does work, okay? So this is important because there is something in behavioral science where you don't listen to what the customer is saying because sometimes they don't know what they need. And I say that with all the love, and I'm exactly the same, even though I'm a person who specializes in this stuff. But yeah, so that's really what you need to do. You need to work out how you can get that authority. Then you need to carefully insert it up front, because that is how you make people actually buy from you and listen to you and understand what you're trying to say and actually help you help them, if that makes sense. All right, if you want that full breakdown of authority, the experiments involved, I'll link it on my channel right now. Thanks guys for watching. More and more of you are watching this channel now, and I really love the DMs you send me as well. So keep doing that. What a great bunch of people you are. Take care. See you in the next one.